Hello, I'm Finola from Research as a Service, and welcome to our 2022 Outlook series. In this session, we're focusing on Pointerra, ASX ticker 3DP, and joining us is Managing Director and Co-founder Ian Olson. Thanks for joining us, Ian.
Hey, Finola, great to be with you again.
Now, you just reported annual contract value reached US $14.4 million at the end of January, and that was up 100% on what you reported in the same period last year and 23% ahead of October. What were the key drivers in this growth?
Yeah, thanks, Finola. So, one of the things we've committed to do to the market is report at least quarterly, if not intra-quarter, on material or otherwise movements in our ACV as we scale the business. And during the December quarter and in the early weeks of January, we obviously made a couple of announcements about contract wins in the utility sector, which is our largest sector at this point, and the space where we've spent the most time over the last 3 years developing product and hiring people with domain knowledge. So it was a function of some of those contract awards and existing customers spending more money with us as we deploy across the organisation, more seats, more data. So as a SaaS business, we price on seats and then on the different types of solutions and analytics and sort of high tier offerings that we have through our Pointerra Core, Pointerra Analytics, and Pointerra Answers suite. So it was really a combination of the two. So contract wins and organic growth. So for us, as we talked about before, churn isn't really a thing that we experience. We've probably maybe one or two small customers at the sort of $500 or $1,000 a month end have determined at different points that they don't want to move on with us. But at the bigger end of town, where we're displacing significant workflow bottlenecks around digital asset management, the story has been very good for us with existing customers just spending more money over the time as we embed ourselves in their organisation.
And you've also recently reported your best ever quarter in terms of cash receipts and operating cash flow. And in December 2021, with net cash of $5 million, having put another $750,000 in the bank in that quarter. And you've secured some, as you said, new material contracts in the quarter from existing and new clients. As we commence 2022, how are you feeling about your financial position?
Yeah, well, those contract wins we'll see, and some more that we think we've got in the pipeline. We'll see some chunky cash inflows over the next few quarters, and so we made a statement, Finola, that we're pretty comfortable with that from an organic growth perspective, and that is hiring individuals in dev, in product, and in sales. That we've got plenty of cash. The bigger contracts tend to have some front end payments, although as we've seen over the journey with ACV being a bit disconnected from reported revenue and cash receipts, that we've got to fund that gap, but we're starting to see some of that cash roll in now, and we've got pretty good visibility over the next few quarters. So yeah, from an organic growth perspective, we think we're pretty comfortable. And we started this business with a $5 million reverse takeover back in 2016, and I think we've raised in total less than 15 million Australian dollars to get this business to where it is. So we've always we built Pointerra to be a capital light business that focused on artificial intelligence and the power of cloud compute and the affordability and scalability of cloud compute as a way of generating a globally scalable business that could be super high margin, and ultimately when we get revenues up to these sorts of levels, or when ACV at 15 and 20 mil and beyond becomes revenue of 15 and 20 mil and beyond US, we'll be very profitable. So yeah, we're in a great position, but perhaps from an M&A perspective, if there are opportunities that present to give us some step change in scale, then that could be a cause for capital. But at this point, we're very comfortable. Thanks.
And as you mentioned earlier, you obviously have been adding contracts with existing customers. Where do you think you sit in terms of your share of existing budgets with customers?
Sure. So it depends across, it's a hard question to answer when you've got a customer at $500 a month and a customer at, over $100,000 a month. So let's focus on the big end of town because that moves the needle more. Some of our big US utilities at this point are paying us only 1 to 2 million US per annum, and yet they are also spending, and why they're paying us that money? It's so they can shorten the time frame it takes them to understand the condition of their networks. Those same utilities are spending 5, 10, 20, 30 million US per annum acquiring aerial and mobile data. And so that's the spend, and then they've got to spend more money to interpret that data. And of course, the efficacy of data from the time it's captured through to the time you get the answer, it starts to fall away quickly if that time frame's too long. And that's why Pointerra exists, to squash that workflow. The value we create is getting you the answer faster and doing it in a really simple way, which is really hands off and addresses their business issues rather than data issues and procuring data and where does it go and how do I analyze it? Can I rely on it? So we've removed all those pain points. So in terms of share of budget, there's an enormous spend by businesses and companies and government and private organisations that own and operate infrastructure assets. And if you can shorten the time frame it takes them from procuring some aerial or mobile insight in the form of data and turning that into answers, then you're generating significant value. So we think there's lots of upside, and our stated goal of getting to 50 million US ACV could come entirely from the utility sector in North America. That's how big the total addressable market is. So, but as you know, we've got 6 other sectors that we're working on scaling by hiring more people in product and sales to build out domain knowledge in those other sectors.
And you've with the last quarterly, and you just alluded to it, hiring more people. You announced that you were going to put people on the ground in Europe, expand your actually have a real office in the US for the first time.
Yep.
Can you talk about what opportunities you see in having those resources?
Sure. So we went into COVID in March of 20 with only a handful of people on the ground in North America, and we've been able to scale the business there with a bunch of hires and a small acquisition in June of last year. But those people have all been work from homes, and that is for people in particularly in sales and BD in North America, work from home is a thing. It's been a thing for a long time. Because just through the moving people around and commuting is time consuming in that part of the world. So it's been a lot of work from home. But what we've learned, and this wouldn't surprise anyone listening, is that when you put people physically together, there's an extra layer of outcome in terms of team building and creativity and culture. So with 2 physical presences in Australia, in Perth and Brisbane, and the Brisbane one more recently, obviously we started in Perth. We've seen some really positive outcomes there for the business, and so we can't wait to get started in the US. And the favourite at the moment looks to be the Colorado area, sort of around Denver, Boulder, Colorado Springs, which is very much a geospatial hub for North America and the world. So we've got people on the ground there at the moment at a trade show, and I look forward to and as was communicated in the press more recently, I'll be spending a fair bit more time in the US this year, and our Chief Revenue Officer, Dave Lowe, he's relocating for about a 6-month period. So, we think throughout calendar 2022, we're going to add a heap more people. We're going to create that physical presence, and I think we'll see some fantastic revenue outcomes in terms of customer acquisition and customer growth through that process. And then into Western Europe. Ireland's probably the logical, although the UK would be great, with the post-Brexit environment. The UK offers some challenges in working across Europe. So Ireland is looking like a place, and the Irish government's long been a supporter of tech companies. I used to work in the UK back in the 90s, and even back then they were encouraging tech companies to set up office and headquarters, European headquarters in that part of the world. So I think we can look forward to perhaps by the end of this year having 4 physical presences, one in North America and one in the UK or Ireland, as well as our two offices in Australia.
And Ian, what opportunities do you see for consolidation in your space?
Yeah, so Finola, we've talked about organic growth and why we do that and where we target people and what we need. And what we've learned through the last 3 years of investing heavily in product and BD from a human capital perspective in the utility sector is that if you bring that domain knowledge on, you can accelerate the sophistication of the product and the nuances and around the solutions that a particular sector, such as the utility sector, have that are perhaps different to other sectors when it comes to the interpretation of information from 3D data. So what we've learned that's been quite successful for us. And so if we look across our other 6 verticals, we are hiring people in each of those verticals, but the opportunity to make step changes in product and the domain knowledge of the people, I think is going to give rise to some M&A. So it's a really long-winded way of saying there are plenty of opportunities for consolidation, for tuck-in acquisitions, or even mergers of equals. But we've got a filter that kind of works in reverse to a lot of businesses. When we don't tend to focus on technology or product, we tend to focus on people first. So if the people fit, if there's a people fit, that's the first tick and the first filter. Then if there's a product fit and a business model fit, then yep, that's the second filter. And then if they also come with a tech stack that adds to our existing platform, then that's fantastic. But it's very much around people.
Great, Ian. Well, thank you so much for your time today. We're looking forward to catching up with you through the course of 2022 to check on Pointerra's progress.
Thanks, Finola. Great to speak with you.